You just spent several decades, 10, 20, 30 years, saving money for retirement. But now that you're approaching or in retirement, why does it feel so terrifying to spend the money? Why can't you let go of that money that you purposefully saved for this period of your life? We're going to go ahead and break this down today and talk about the reasons why, plus some solutions to help you out. Why does spending feel so hard? There's a psychological wall that you hit in moving from being a saver to a spender. Habits are hard to create, but they're even harder to break, especially after decades. You have spent decades perfecting being a saver, putting money into that retirement account nearly every paycheck along the way. You've been watching and been rewarded with dopamine hits as the value generally rises of those retirement accounts. Maybe you've gotten employee matching, maybe you've rode some of the market downward swings, but then hit the upward swing and more than made up for your losses. Having this experience and seeing this money grow, it's exciting. It gives you a rush. It crosses boundaries and goals that you set, and then suddenly you're supposed to spend it. What's up with that? What happens that you can suddenly go from watching your balances grow to watching your balances decline? What you've really created is a saver identity. You've spent so long in that mode that it's become part of you. Part of you to save for retirement, part of you to see that balance go up, part of you to set that money aside. And you've done this through great discipline, decision-making, frugality, maybe foregoing some things, and optimizing how you spend money every paycheck. The other thing that happens too is money goes from being a quasi-infinite resource to a finite resource. And what I mean by a quasi-infinite resource is as long as you work, there's new money coming in. So if you spend it all, you know next pay period, you're going to get another check. And you've gotten used to that treadmill of spending money and getting money, spending money and getting money. However, when you go into retirement, it's not necessarily going to be like that. For some of you who have full pensions, it may be like that, and maybe this video isn't for you, but stay tuned just in case there's some nuggets you can glean out of it. But for those of us that are going to be living off retirement accounts and retirement investments, you're going to see maybe changes in those balances, at least for periods of time. You're also not going to have new money coming in from an outside source, from that work source, unless you do continue to work, and obviously that's your option. But this is all up to you, and it requires a mind change to go from that saver mentality that you've spent decades honing into a spending mentality. So it feels like you're kind of breaking the rules now. You've been saving all this money, and now you're going to withdraw it. You're going to spend it. And you worry about running out because, as I mentioned, your retirement savings look more like a finite resource. There's an amount there. No one's putting checks in anymore from your paychecks. So you worry about it and you get obsessive about it. You wonder how fast it could decline to zero. That fear of running out hits you hard. This particular video is kind of near and dear to my heart right now in the process that I'm going through, sitting here between being laid off and being fully retired. We had set aside money specifically for this time of life, knowing that it was coming. Again, that's covered in other videos. We saved money for this period, to work on other things, to have opportunities to make it through to retirement. And personally, I still feel guilty when we have to pull money out of the fund that we set aside for this. So this is not something that is purely abstract or purely educational. It's something I'm dealing with in real time here. And what I'm learning, again, is to create the plan and trust the plan that it's all going to work out accordingly. And that's what's important. The emotional part will probably stay, but you can reduce its impact by having your logical brain take over and say, no, don't panic. It's okay. We knew this was going to happen. We knew this balance was going to go down. It's going down at a sustainable rate. Everything is good. So as you make money decisions in your life, feel free to comment below and tell me your struggles with spending or your bucket list items that you want to spend money on. And then some of the challenges you've had building up your retirement accounts over time. That's how we build community here. Also, if you enjoy this content, remember to like, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. So how do you get beyond this? How do you get beyond your guilt of spending, your unwillingness to spend the money, your fear of spending the money? How do you move into that phase where you can enjoy the money and enjoy your retirement? Because that was the whole point of this money, was to have a fulfilling retirement and check off all those items on your bucket list, do that traveling that you wanted to do, move somewhere warmer, whatever your goal was. This money was set aside for that purpose, and now you're not using it for that. One of the main keys is to have a plan for how you're going to use the money. And trusting in that plan is then important. Validating that plan, verifying that plan, getting that plan vetted either through a partner or a spouse, through a financial planner, or using online software, whatever your preferred mode is. But having the plan is key, because once you develop that plan, you can see how your money is going to react over time. What's going to happen to that money over time. So you can then take the first step, which is giving yourself a retirement paycheck, deciding what your draw is going to be on a steady cadence. That may be every couple of weeks, or it may be once a month. You withdraw money and it's a set amount, and you know what that amount is in accordance with your plan and what the impact's going to be to your plan. There's a lot of stuff floating around out there about 4%, 4.7%, 5% withdrawals, guardrails. This video is not really to cover the merits of those plans, but to understand that having a plan is the important part. Additionally, being human beings and still being alive, you can change your mind. You can refine the plan over time. So if you're worried about running out of money, but you want to have a great retirement in your younger years of retirement when you can do the traveling, then figure out how you can withdraw a little more money now and a little less money later as you slow down. Again, there's systems like the percentage withdrawals and the guardrails that'll help you with this. When you take money out, be sure to budget it. Put the money where it's allocated. Some of you might still have a mortgage or car payments. Others might have student loans. You'll have utilities, mortgages, all those things. Figure out where the money is going to go. And then, just like you do today, set aside money for that big trip. Now, you're going to run into things that erode your spending power, like inflation and downturns in the market. However, the key is to ride those out. Generally, the market has always increased. Yeah, there have been big drops, big scary drops, but the market always comes back. And I always kind of think that if the market doesn't come back, we collectively, as a country and a world, have a much bigger problem, right? We're heading toward Mad Max proportions here of what society is going to be like. So I believe in general, in my heart and to some degree logically, that the market's always going to keep coming back. So we just need to ride it out, and we need to adjust for those times when the market is down versus when the market is up. And understanding that, having that plan, running that plan by a financial advisor or using online tools, or if you're really good at Excel, you could model it in Excel, allows you to put trust in that plan. Because if you don't really trust your plan, you're going to live in that fear and guilt mode and have trouble spending. A large percentage of retirees who actively saved for their retirement actually pass away with more money in their retirement account than they started with. Now, it's good for your heirs, for inheritance, but what it means is you could have done a lot more with that money during your retirement. You could have traveled more, you could have done more things with that money, and you held back. You didn't maximize this third act that you're in going into retirement. And that's really the key. We finally have freedom from the shackles of a full-time job. So don't you want to live your life to the best after you spent 40 or 50 plus years saving for this life? It doesn't make sense to get to the finish line and then not celebrate. And of course, For those of you in this channel who are Gen X knows how to celebrate. Don't forget that. One of the things you can do to help you along is have accountability for your plan. So you're going to develop the plan, trust the plan, and then have accountability for that plan to make sure you follow it, and someone to run decisions by, especially if you're doing variable withdrawals, maybe guardrails or another system. Having that sounding board, again, if it's a partner who's educated themselves in the process or a financial planner, accountability gives you that second person to agree with your decision or disagree and try and talk you out of it. Now, you may feel strongly about something, but again, you always have to ask yourself, am I right or am I wrong? You need to leave that possibility open that you could be wrong to fully have a discussion about your withdrawals and what you're going to spend money on in retirement. However, the good news is if you're both following the facts, you and your accountability partner, it should be very straightforward what's a good decision or not. The key is there's going to be some middle grounds where, yeah, it's a good decision, but do you really want to buy that expensive sports car? Is that something that will make your retirement more fulfilling, or would experiences be better? Hopefully these are the kind of decisions that you're wrestling with instead of the do I or don't I withdraw money to live on decisions. So accountability helps sanity check you and provides a psychological blanket to keep you comfortable, that warm blanket that you can cuddle up to and know things are going to be okay as you lay your head on the pillow each night without worrying about the money. So again, you need to trust the plan. You need to build the plan, trust the plan, and let it do its thing. Odds are, if it's a good plan, yeah, you'll probably see your account balances stay steady or maybe increase. However, if they do decrease, don't panic. As long as it's part of the plan, as long as you're on a spend down trajectory that's known and anticipated, that's okay. Because again, you've modeled this out. And we'll talk about what modeling looks like in a future video and some tools for that. But the whole key here in this video is to go from saver to spender, get over the psychological barriers, and trust the plan that you're going to build for spending the money. Because the true purpose of money is that it's a tool. It's not a thing. It's not an asset you're going to take with you. It's a tool for here and now. And how are you going to use this tool to build the lifestyle you want in your retirement, in your third act? So in trusting the plan, you're going to know what's going to happen each step of the way, and you're going to have confidence that you're doing the right thing and everything is, as they say, going according to plan. Even the bad stuff, because good modeling software will take into account market upturns and market downturns. So in your third act, you want to embrace spending. You want to embrace that money is a tool, not a trophy. Yeah, at one point you may have had 5, 6, 7 figures in that account, but if you're 90 years old and still have that amount and you haven't done anything, won't you look back on those earlier years of retirement with regret? Again, the plan allows you to model that out. You don't want to keep postponing life once you have the funds to support that life. We worked hard for decades, shackled to a full-time job, and now you have the opportunity to live life on your own terms. Resist that urge to save forever, because you're not going to enjoy life. You're going to be Ebenezer Scrooge, for lack of a better term, with all this money, but living in a beat-up old house, not eating nice food, not going anywhere, living in the dark. So resist that urge to save forever. Again, trust the plan. The plan is going to be your key. So you've mastered savings. Now it's time to master living. What's important here, and the big takeaway, is that you look at your life and what you're going through and your plan and align everything. And that's really what we're doing here in Gen X Third Act. We have the Third Act trio, which is financial strength, mental purpose, and physical energy. By peaking out as best we can all those buckets, we can have an awesome third act that we'll look back on and be glad we made the decisions that we made. I appreciate your time, and as always, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.